All right, guys. Good morning and welcome back. So now you and I must have watched the previous video I made on the formulas to get the crotch, armhole, and neckline. Now the reason I'm trying to be more explicit here is for us to understand this once and for all. For some of us whom I new to this channel, I will pray and guide you or suggest you watch this video. Now, this video will be the foundational knowledge you might need for you to progress in learning other of my illustrations on this channel. Now, kindly make sure you subscribe to my channel, share this video, comment, and also tell me where you are watching me from. Now, I made a video initially on how to get the crotch, armhole, and neckline. Now, note importantly that this formula applies for every size or all sizes, both for adults and for kids. Now, when you must have gotten to this stage, I'm trying to explain to you the formulas I use and why I use them. Now, I will use the red marker to indicate the ones I use at this stage. Now, for the crouch, which is this one, I use hips over 4 for the crouch, right? Now, for the armhole, with the formulas are this, I use chest over 4. For the neck, I use this as well, which is the only formula for the neck. Now, I will bring them out and then tell you, explain in details how or why it is by that formula. For the crouch, I told us I use hips over 4, right? Which is this, hips over 4, right? So now, let me explain to you what it simply means. Now, this means that in order for you to get a perfect crouch for your customer, you need to take note of the person's hip circumference. Now, the hip circumference must be measured in a form that the customer has to spread his legs apart, take a balanced position while you take the reading of his waist point. Now, this reading must be free enough, should not be tight or constricting or restricting. It should give the customer room for him to feel free on the arm, on the trouser point, the crotch area, right? So now, for you to get this very well, you need to know that hips is the major thing on the trouser. Now, some persons might ask, do men have hips? The answer is yes, we do have hips, because they don't sometimes include our hip in our measurement areas. Now, some persons as well will be confused. How do we use the hips in cutting? Some will use the laps and they don't mind about the hip, but I am here to let you know that if you divide your laps by 2 plus extra 2 inches, it must be equal or exact of hips over 4, right, plus 2. So, sorry, if you divide your laps by 2, it should be equals hips over 4 plus 2, right? So let me just say this again. If you divide your laps by 2, the answer it will give you will be the same thing or exact or close to your hips over 4 plus extra 2. Let's take for instance, my laps is 26, right? Or 25, for example. Then hips is 48 because I would like you to have a free trouser. Now, if you divide my hips, which is 48, which is 12, right, plus 2 is going to give us 14, right? Now, 14 times 2 is 24. But if you divide my laps of 25 by 2, I have 25, which is 12.5. So the value of these laps and laps and hip must be in close range. And don't forget that the back panel is extended by extra 2 inches, so which will give it enough room for it to enter properly. So in all standard measurements, once your laps by 2 is divided and your hips by 4 is divided plus extra 2, the both must be either exact or close to exact value. So this is one thing some of us fail to understand. So even if you're using laps above 2 to cut a trouser, it's still the same thing as hips over 4 plus extra 2, right? As long as the back panel must be extended. So this is the similarities on using the laps and the hip in cutting. So I believe this video must have explained to you how these things is being derived. So now, when you calculate that, now one of the better options I have here is because hips over 4 gives recognize of all sizes in terms of width, right? But then in order of my formulas, measurement is still very much okay. Upright sitting position is very much okay. Half quarter length of the trial length is still very much okay. Then, but the reason for this method, I don't like placing my tape at the crotch of my customers, right? I like to read my formulas to derive. But if you so feel comfortable doing that, there is no problem. You can go ahead, place your tape, and take your reading and cut your trousers. So now the second point is upright sitting position. It is not every time that you want to measure a client that will be having that time to bring a stool for him to sit. What if you met him in the market, in the church, or outside your working environment? Will you be able to get a stool for him to sit? So that's the only reason I don't seem to use this second option. Now, quarter length of the trouser. Now, this method only took note of tall people. It did not recognize short people that are fat. So if you tend to use the number 3 formula, you will have issues working for short persons that are fat because their length of trouser are not in line with their hips. So which will give you a smaller crotch depth, but which will not be able for the person to put it on properly. It will give them the waist at the back. So this formula did not recognize short and fat people. It only took note of tall people, average sizes, and every other sizes. So this is the only reason I don't use the quarter length of the trouser. Now, hips over 4 is the most appropriate method for me, not for everybody though, to get the perfect crouch. So it simply means divide your hips by 4 and then use the answer for your crouch depth. But then, set on still, you need to take note of some factors. Now, the factor you should take note of is the length of the person of the trouser, the trouser of the person. Now, any length that is not up to 39 is being considered as a short person or average person. So from 39 inches above, that's 39, 40, 40 and a half, 41, blah, 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 to the end is being seen as a tall person. So if your length of the trouser is up to this, whatever the hips gave you, divide by 4. So let me just assume I have 40 hips here, over 4 is 10. I will use 10 for the crouch of this customer, this one, this one, this one, right? If their hips is 40. So now, for further clarification, what happens when the length is less than 39? You tend to deduct half inch from whatever answer you have on the hips over 4. So let me just give example of 2 clients. So I have 2 clients. Let's call them clients A and B, right? And then their trouser lengths gave us, for this, it gave us 40 and this 38. And the hips for this, let's say 46. Let's use the same hips, 46 for the hips, right? But the length is 38 and 40. So I'm trying to tell you that in these 2 measurements, you are not going to use the same hips over 4 because their hips is 46, which is 11 and a half. So 46 over 4 is going to give us 11 and a half, right? So I'm trying to let you know that you are not going to use the same crouch depth for both of these clients because their length of the trousers are not the same. So what we now use, this one will work for client A because he has length of 40. But for client B, you are meant to deduct half from this formula, so you have 11 as the crouch for client B. So I hope this one gets cleared. So these are more how you work it out as long as you are taking this format, and it will give you a perfect fitting on your customer. Also note importantly that your customer trouser length measurements must be perfect before you can make use of these formulas effectively. So let's go over to the next one, which is the chest over 4. So I think I'm done with the crotch explanations. So this works for all sizes. Now, if you are working for kids, please don't deduct half from their length over 4, from the hips over 4 rather. So divide the hip by 4, use the whole answer for your crouch. For kids, for all kids ranges, but for adults, this is when you start applying some fitting measures in order to get a perfect fitting. So I hope this video is going a long way to help you understand. Please, if you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe to my channel and also turn on the post notification bell for you to be notified whenever I make new posts. Now the next I have here is my chest over 4. Now for the armhole. Now armhole is grouped into 2. Short sleeve is 1. Three-quarter and long sleeve are being considered as 1 as well because it uses the same formula, right? So like I said, the one I use is the chest over 4. So which measurement sections can still work very well for the person. Shoulder over 2 can work, total length over 4 can work, but there I use this chest over 4. Now, since you have known that you have 2 types of sleeve, short sleeve is 1, then three-quarter and long sleeves are being seen as 1. So this simply means that now the reason I chose this is because these other 3 methods did not recognize either long sleeve, short sleeve, or three-quarter. They just gave us a regular sleeve armhole formula. So if you happen to be working with the general formula for armhole, it will not give you fittings on some areas like long sleeve and three-quarter, because the formula it gave you, the answer is for the only for the short sleeve, and which is just going to be a big because armholes of long sleeve and short sleeves are more fitted. Long sleeve and three-quarter sleeves are more fitted than short sleeves, because you tend to have it to be more fitted on your customer than the short sleeve. So now the formula here gives you a normal armhole, but it did not recognize whether three-quarter sleeve or long sleeve. So for this formula, it states that if your chest is 40, for example, divide by 4, so you have 40 over 4, which is 10. So now you are going to consider if you're making a short sleeve, long sleeve, or three-quarter sleeve. Now in the case where you're making a three-quarter sleeve or long sleeve, you are meant to minus or deduct 1 inch from this. So invariably, it simply means that you have chest over 4 for short sleeve, right? For short sleeve, then chest over 4 minus 1. This will give you for long and three-quarter sleeve. So these are the major summary I have just explained to us now. So whatever be your chest measurements for the short sleeve over 4, use the answer for your armhole. For the long sleeves or three-quarter sleeve, you have chest over 4 minus 1. It works for everybody, both for adults and for kids as well. So this is a summary of what I have been explaining. But then there are some instances where we have extra large customers, like triple XL, extra large customers. Now, let's say chest of 60 and above, because I have made some clothes that I have a chest line of 60. So I did not use the chest over 4 because I know that it will be so big or so wide for me to use 60 over 4. So what I now did is I left this formula and now picked the shoulder over 2, which is the perfect method for me to use to derive my armhole, right? So having said this, so you should as well be flexible for you to know which method to use at which particular point in time. So however it is, be the one to decide, the one that makes more sense to you and the one that you're going to adopt to work for your customer. Make sure your armholes are not too deep or too small for every outfit you're making. As a bespoke designer or tailor, you should not be having one formula you are using. You should be versatile, you should be flexible to adjust to any size charts, your size measurements you have at that particular outfit. So having said this, now the next I am going to explain here is for the neckline, right? So now the neckline, which seems to be the last but not the least, but is the most worrisome area of our clothes measurements, cutting and drafting. Now bear in mind that we have 2 or 3 types of neckline measurements applications. We have it in shirts, we have it in our senator outfits, the one we are going to pipe the neck, and the one we're going to do the facing turn up. Now all of this is just rolling around having a perfect formula or perfect size for each customer. Then for you to have a perfect neck, you must make sure you divide the neck by 6, right? So whatever neck measurement answer you have, let's say you have a neckline of 16, for example, divide by 6. You have a value, let's say 2.6666, right? Now the answer you are getting here is for the width of the neck, for the width that from the center fold to the left or the right, depending on how you are marking. It's for the width. Then for you to get the depth, add ½ inch to whatever you have on the width answer, that will get your depth, and then you connect in this form. Now this works for everybody, both for kids, adults, and every other person. So now, but for you to be more precise or more perfect, I don't use the whole answer I get in my drafting or cutting, because I am yet to sew. And you and I know that in sewing, there are what we call trimmings, neckline changes, alterations, adjustments, and to give you a perfect fitting. So what I simply do is whatever answer I get from the neck over 6, I will minus ½ inch or 0.3 from it, use the value for the width, then add half to that to get my depth. So before I finish sewing my clothes, I will now do what we call trimming on the neck for me to arrive at the perfect neck of 16. The reason I am doing this is to make sure that I don't exceed the original neck of 16, maybe to 16.5 or 17. So I kind of pay more attention on my neckline drafting in order to achieve a perfect or more fitted neckline, not to be too tight or too free as well. So in summary, what I just said now is whatever neck you have, the formula I have here is N is for the neck, which you know, over 6 minus 0.3. This formula is for the width. Then to get your depth, add half to this. So this is just how to get your neck width and your neck depth. So I hope you find your way around these formulas I have just laid for you. This is just going to give you a perfect approach. Now, wherever you see your N is stand for your neck, divide by 6, you have a value, then deduct 0.3 from it, then mark it as the width. Then to get the depth, add half to that, and then get your depth, connect with your armhole curve. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video must have gone a long way to give you more insights and more explanations on how to get your neckline, armhole, and your crotch. If you like this video, please kindly give me a thumbs up, like and comment and share, and also tell me where you're watching from, and possibly tell me if you have any question. I'll be in the comment section of this video for me to check for some of us who might have challenges on the whole video I have made. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.